Good morning. I'm James Owens, the Deputy Administrator of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Thank you for joining us today for this exciting discussion about state and local government issues related to automated driving systems. We have three experts who will share their thoughts and expertise, and we are honored to be joined by the Administrator of the Federal Transit Administration, K. Jane Williams. A few weeks ago, NHTSA and the Department of Transportation launched a first-of-its-kind program to promote transparency, safety, and public engagement in the development and on-road testing of automated driving systems. The Automated Vehicle Transparency and Engagement for Safe Testing Initiative, or AV-TEST, is the first platform connecting the public, manufacturers, developers, operators, and all levels of government to voluntarily share information about the on-road testing and deployment of prototype automated driving systems. Transportation Secretary Elaine L. Chow joined us for the announcement, and I appreciate her leadership on this important issue. She is firmly committed to ensuring that the United States continues to lead in the innovation and development of transportation technologies. As she frequently says, safety is our #1 priority, and I couldn't agree more. So far, 19 states and companies have signed on as the first participants in the AV-TEST Initiative's web pilot. The companies are Beep, Cruise, Fiat Chrysler, Local Motors, Navia, Nuro, Toyota, Uber, Waymo, and EasyMile. And 9 states, Arizona, California, Florida, Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Texas, and Utah have also committed to the initiative. The AV-TEST initiative is open to all stakeholders involved in the development and testing of vehicles equipped with automated driving systems in the United States. And we look forward to having many more partners join us in this important transparency, public education, and engagement project. In accordance with the Paperwork Reduction Act, we recently published a notice in the Federal Register seeking public comment on NHTSA's proposed collection of information for the AV-TEST initiative. The comment period closes on August 31st. I encourage you to share your thoughts and feedback with us as we prepare to expand the AV-TEST initiative to more participants. By joining this initiative, companies and governments can show the public their commitment to transparency and education as this technology continues to develop. Educating drivers about automated driving systems is important because there are many misconceptions about vehicles equipped with these technologies, their availability, and their capabilities. For starters, there are no vehicles equipped with automated driving systems available for sale to the public today. Any vehicle the public can buy today cannot drive itself. Let me repeat that, cannot drive itself, and requires an active, attentive, and fully engaged driver ready to act at any time. What companies are testing are prototype vehicles equipped with automated driving systems on public roads in limited areas and for limited use. As the nation's highway traffic safety agency, NHTSA is particularly interested in the safe development and testing of automated driving vehicles. These systems hold the potential to one day help prevent fatal crashes, save lives, and reduce crash severity. These technologies may also one day improve mobility for underserved communities, including people with disabilities and older adults. Once these technologies have been safely tested and proven, public trust will be key to their acceptance and fulfilling their life-saving potential. The AV-TEST initiative will help provide a critical resource to educate and engage the public about these vehicles, the scope of on-road testing, and the stakeholders involved. As part of the initiative, we are developing an online, public-facing platform for sharing automated driving system on-road testing activities and other relevant information at the local, state, and national levels. We hope to share the initial platform with the public and stakeholders later this summer. Participating companies and governments can use online mapping tools to show on-road testing locations. They can also choose to share testing activity data, such as vehicle types and uses, dates, frequency, vehicle counts, and routes. Meanwhile, state and local governments may provide information about vehicle operation regulations, emergency response plans, and legislation. NHTSA works closely with our state and local safety partners, including state highway safety offices and departments of transportation. And so do other agencies at US DOT, including the Federal Transit Administration. FTA has a number of ongoing projects in the automation space, including the Accelerating Innovative Mobility Initiative, research on transit automation, and transit bus automation quarterly updates. We are honored to have with us today the Acting Administrator of the Federal Transit Administration, K. Jane Williams, to elaborate on her agency's efforts on automation. Jane Williams brings more than 20 years of executive management experience, and since joining FTA in August of 2017 as the acting administrator, has focused on implementing Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao's 3 top priorities: safety, infrastructure investment, and innovation across all of FTA's programs and initiatives. In 2019 alone, FTA supported the public transportation industry with approximately $15 billion in formula and competitive grants, investing in America's transit infrastructure and new and innovative technology. She recently launched the Accelerating Innovative Mobility Initiative to advance innovation by focusing on new transportation service models, integrated fare payment systems, and automation to improve mobility for all Americans. Acting Administrator Williams, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, James, for that very kind introduction. I've had several opportunities to work with James, both as acting NHTSA Administrator and the Deputy General Counsel since I joined DOT 3 years ago, and I'm happy to continue to partner with him on innovation in transportation. I appreciate the opportunity to join you today to kick off this event and to highlight the Federal Transit Administration's work in the expanding and exciting field of automation. I'm sure it's not lost on any of you how important it is to be more forward-thinking during these unprecedented times in the transit industry. Innovation is key in meeting today's challenges and the expectations of riders of all modes of transportation. Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao has made innovation one of her top priorities, along with safety and infrastructure investment. And at FTA, these priorities guide our work every day. We are currently positioned to drive innovation across the industry through targeted investments that show the most promise in improving public transportation. But before I tell you more about FTA's work in automation, I would like to take this opportunity to first thank the transit industry. Throughout this COVID-19 public health emergency, transit agencies and frontline transit workers have continued to provide vital transportation services for healthcare personnel and other essential workers. Under the CARES Act, FTA received $25 billion to support the transit industry, and we've awarded close to 80% of the funds through grant awards, totaling $19.6 billion to states and communities across the nation, which helps keep America and its economy moving. Now, as communities reopen, the transit industry plays an increasingly critical role. And as agencies increase service to meet riders' demands, FTA is also working to support them with personal protective equipment, or PPE. Across the nation, we see systems increasing their use of technology in creative ways, including automation as a strategy to ensure safety. In Jacksonville, Florida, the JTA is using automated vehicles to transport COVID-19 test kits to the lab, keeping the entire trip contactless. It is an innovative approach to maintain safety through the use of AV technology. JTA has been at the forefront in AV technology, and in 2018 was selected to receive a $12.5 million grant under the US DOT's BUILD program for automated vehicles and technology improvements to create an innovation corridor downtown. In that project, JTA created an integrated automated transit network with automated shuttles and a communication systems coordinating dynamic and connected signals, smart lighting, and sensors detecting pedestrians, even flood alerts. FTA is also participating in US DOT's Automated Driving Systems Grant Program, managing 2 demonstration projects focused on bus automation, including a project run by the University of Iowa, which received $7 million to test automated driving systems to support rural older adults in eastern Iowa who lack good transportation options. The project equips a passenger van with a wheelchair ramp and automated sensors and will travel through small towns and rural areas south of Iowa City, stopping at a mall, community centers, and libraries. FTA is also leading a project by the Contra Costa Transportation Authority in Northern California, which is rolling out 3 AV projects supported by $7.5 million, including shared automated transportation for a senior community in Walnut Creek, California, an automated vehicle shuttle service with a self-docking wheelchair apparatus for patients at County Hospital in Martinez, and preparing the Interstate 680 corridor for future connected automated vehicles. Beyond our partnership with USDOT, FTA has also been working for years to lay the groundwork for AV advancements. 2 years ago, we launched our Strategic Transit Automation Research Initiative, or STAR. This 5-year effort is moving the transit industry forward on bus automation with extensive stakeholder involvement and analysis of early adoption efforts. Today's themes are transparency and engagement, and those are the hallmarks of FTA's STAR initiative. It focuses on leveraging technologies from other sectors, demonstrating market-ready technologies, and spreading the word about challenges and successes to the transit industry. Our initiative ensures that all the good work occurring in the automation sector through the transit industry, the private sector, and academia is effectively communicated and, where appropriate, replicated. As part of the STAR initiative, FTA is partnering with 3 transit agencies exploring automated buses to support data collection and analysis. We're working with Access Services in West LA, which is introducing an automated minivan to serve paratransit riders to improve service and overcome driver shortages. We're also working to support the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey as it tests 6 automated motor coach buses to run in an exclusive bus lane leading to the Lincoln Tunnel. And Valley Metro in Phoenix is partnering with the private AV company Waymo to provide automated paratransit trips for people with disabilities and older adults. FTA offers competitive grants to promote innovation as well, and in March, FTA announced selections for 25 projects under the Integrated Mobility Innovation Program, otherwise known as IMI. IMI supports new mobility models, including automation. For example, the city of Arlington, Texas, received $1.7 million to integrate automated vehicles into its on-demand rideshare service. And in 2017, lacking a transit program to serve its 400,000 residents, Arlington contracted with the private company Via to launch on-demand ride-sharing downtown. City leaders then promoted AV in 2018 through a pilot project with Drive.ai, 3 self-driving vans circulating in Arlington's entertainment district, which served 1,400 riders in just 9 months. Arlington now will expand its use of AVs on the University of Texas at Arlington campus to provide rides to students and faculty. Also under IMI, FTA provided the Connecticut Department of Transportation with a $2 million grant to test automated buses on the CT Fast Track Bus Rapid Transit Corridor. Battery electric buses will run in a 9-mile busway near Hartford with the ability to platoon vehicles along the corridor and precision dock at platforms. Lastly, FTA's newest competitive grant program, the Accelerating Innovative Mobility, or AIM initiative, will drive innovation throughout the industry by promoting forward-thinking approaches to improve financing, system design, and service, including automation. We plan to announce the $11 million in AIM project selections later this summer. All of FTA's work in the AV space serves to accelerate transit automation efforts nationwide. We understand that automation is rapidly becoming a reality, and we want to be sure that it is incorporated into the nation's transportation network safely and efficiently. We look forward to continuing to work with our partners at NHTSA and many of you to advance these innovative transportation options to help the transit industry address today's challenges and meet the demand of riders while moving toward the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting Administrator Williams. There's a lot of exciting developments going on in the transit industry today. Thank you for your leadership in this space. We appreciate your time and your support for the AV Test Initiative. Next, I am pleased to introduce the three speakers joining us today to share their perspectives and insight regarding state government efforts related to automated driving systems. First, we have Ann Farrow, President and CEO of the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators, or AMVA. Then we will hear from Jonathan Adkins, Executive Director of the Governor's Highway Safety Association, also known as GHSA. And finally, we will be joined by King G, Director of Mobility and Safety at AASHTO, the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials. Ann Farrow, I look forward to hearing your presentation.
Opening remarks. Whoops. All right, well, I got started. So let me just say thank you, James, for including AMVA in today's panel, and kudos to NHTSA and the USD for the AV Test Initiative. It was neat to hear your remarks and James' remarks to see just how far some of the AV Test Initiative has progressed. To see NHTSA working in this space, particularly your efforts to expand public engagement in learning about autonomous vehicles and expanding that learning to the public is awesome. To have them eventually have the capability and to see where vehicles are being tested and all what they can offer will absolutely help with public trust. So it's no surprise that I'll comment on this next point. Motor vehicle crashes kill 12 out of every 100,000 people in the US each year. Almost 37,000 deaths last year. And the promise of AV technology, the promise that that technology holds to protect riders, to protect pedestrians, to protect cyclists is more pressing than ever. And I know today's session is as much about meeting the associations like AMVA that work with state government roadway safety agencies, and to also learn about what we're doing in that AV space. For the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators, our job is to provide tools and support for the motor vehicle and law enforcement agencies across the US and Canada to help them achieve their missions and to identify best practices and model programs that encourage uniformity and reciprocity in driver and vehicle licensing and in traffic safety enforcement. All voluntary, all very dedicated, tremendous commitment among all the jurisdictions. Demonstrating that is the jumpstart that the AMVA community got on AVs. Back in 2014, AMVA formed the Autonomous Vehicles Subcommittee and Working Group. And I do want to thank NHTSA for supporting us in those early efforts and throughout. Through the AV Working Group at AMVA, dozens of state and provincial agency professionals discussed the impacts of AV technology on their agency's missions, and they identified best practices and guidance for each other. They also considered the impact of advanced driver assistance systems, and we heard the Deputy Administrator refer to that, making sure that drivers understand that the safety technologies in vehicles today helps those drivers avoid crashes. Clearly, as James was very quick to highlight for everybody, not all drivers understand how ADAS works today, and that it always requires human intervention interaction. Together, AMVA's AV Working Group developed the first edition of the jurisdictional guidelines for the safe testing and deployment of vehicles equipped with automated driving systems. We released that in 2018. And in 2019, we issued a guide to testing drivers in vehicles with advanced driver assistance systems. So a significant guide on ADS itself, and a guide for driver examiners on ADAS specific, those technologies that are in the vehicles today, and ensuring that driver examiners across the US and Canada can test a new driver and help identify for that driver to demonstrate that they understand how to use the ADAS that are designed to protect them. Edition 2 of the larger guide, the jurisdictional guidelines on automated driving systems, will be released later this summer, and we're very excited about that. All of these publications, along with the research and resources gathered by our AV Information Sharing Group, are available right here on this slide that's before you. AAMVA's Edition 2 of the ADS guidelines will apply to SAE levels 3, 4, and 5. And it offers recommendations in the areas that the Departments of Motor Vehicles and Traffic Safety Enforcement really influence and have authority over: licensing and registration, driver education and training, insurance and liability. In our trade, we call that financial responsibility, rules of the road, enforcement of traffic laws and regulations, and administration of motor vehicle inspections. And while our primary audience may be the motor vehicle and law enforcement agencies, who are our primary membership, we also offer recommendations in addition to manufacturers and others, all with the goal to optimize the safety outcomes of ADS. I want to give you a few examples of what those recommendations look like. An example of a recommendation to the jurisdictions refers to creating a consistent oversight framework that removes barriers to ADS development. Specifically, agencies are encouraged to fully review their own traffic laws, and with the help of the TRB's, the Transportation Research Board's study of motor vehicle codes that was issued about 2 years ago, to help identify the laws that that jurisdiction may have that impair or some way are a barrier to accommodating ADS technology. In our law enforcement chapter, we strongly encourage manufacturers to develop the standard tools and training so our law enforcement partners can safely identify and respond to an emergency or routine traffic stop with an ADS vehicle. Law enforcement and other first responders should have access to standard training regarding the potential hazards they may face, and manufacturers and technology companies are best positioned to deliver these standards. And to reinforce what the Deputy Administrator said, automated driving system or a complete AV level 3, 4, 5 vehicles are not on the roadways today other than in a testing mode. But even in that testing mode, first responders have to appear on the scene and respond to that vehicle. Very important that manufacturers provide those standards. And for all of us, our recommendation, among many, encourages us to all, and certainly across the community of state, federal, local, and industry, establish consistent terminology. This is already happening through a safety and industry-led effort today. It's really important that we all get behind it. In the end, to be successful in the safe testing and deployment of ADS vehicles, we need to continue to strengthen our coordination and information sharing. And the more we can standardize and simplify terminology, the more likely drivers are able to understand what they're experiencing, understand what they're using on their new vehicle, and adapt to using it properly before we even get to those level 3, 4, 5 ADS vehicles. All of this rests on very strong stakeholder engagement formed through partnerships with everyone who is engaged in developing and overseeing these life-saving technologies and the public education I already spoke to. So again, thank you to NHTSA, thank you to FMCSA, to the US DOT, and all of my colleagues who are here on this panel today for pressing the advantage with DOT's AV Tests initiative. It's wonderful to see, great to be a part of. And at AAMVA, we are really looking forward to continuing to work closely with all of you. Again, James, thank you.
Thank you, Ann. We really appreciate your leadership and partnership in this endeavor. So thank you for joining us today. Now I'll hand over the floor to Jonathan Adkins. Jonathan, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. And thank you for the opportunity, James. I appreciate being able to be here. I also want to thank my colleagues at AAMVA and AASHTO You'll hear some overlap in the information that I've shared today, and that's intentional because the Governor's Highway Safety Association works very closely, not only with NHTSA, but with our state partners. And it's really important that we coordinate on a host of topics, including on AV. If you're not familiar, the Governor's Highway Safety Association represents the state highway safety agencies across the country. Our members are focused on the behavioral aspects of highway safety. We know that the vast majority of crashes today do involve an action that a driver has taken. So our members play a very critical role in highway safety. There are a number of Governor's Highway Safety offices across the country that are extremely involved in the AV issue. In fact, many of them are leading or co-leading statewide task forces. Over the last 3 years, GHSA, like our friends at AMBA, has developed multiple resources for highway safety offices. We put out 3 different reports that are guides for highway safety offices, but they're also very general guides for everyone interested in the AV issue. So I encourage you to check that out on our website at ghsa.org. GHSA and our members are really excited about the promise of AV technology. We know it's going to have a life-saving benefit. We want the public to be excited about this, and we want the public to use the technology that's out there today and also the technology that is coming. At the same time, we know that with automation, human behavior is going to continue to play a huge role in traffic safety. We heard Ann just say that, and she's absolutely right. We see the most likely future scenario, one that is going to be a mix of human behavior, technology, and a whole host of factors. So it's really critical that humans are going to continue to play a huge role in all the work that we're doing today. Technology is going to help us a lot, but we're still going to have humans involved. So what do these humans think? We continually see that survey after survey, that there's a mix of reactions. Some of us are excited about this technology, but many of us are fearful of it. Many of us have concerns. We don't necessarily trust the technology that's in our vehicle now, and particularly the technology that's coming. We may not appreciate our own responsibilities as drivers. We may think, oh, great, this technology is coming. I'm not going to have to drive anymore. I can sit and be distracted and eat my lunch while my car gets me there. We're not quite there yet, to say the least. Last year, to address some of these questions, GHSA put together an expert panel with support from State Farm and support from NHTSA, AASHTO, and AMBA, and others. We wanted to look at a couple key issues that impact highway safety offices. How do we effectively communicate to the public about the technology that's here now and the technology that's coming? The other issue we wanted to look at is law enforcement and first responders. Highway safety offices work very closely with both groups, and we wanted to look at how we can best communicate and engage law enforcement and first responders. There were 2 big takeaways that the expert panel came away with. One is that we need to be talking about the safety technology that's in vehicles now, the ADS, as Ann just mentioned, and that level 2 AV technology. That's the technology that's most likely to be used by consumers now and for the immediate future. We hear too many stories and too much anecdotal evidence of people turning off that technology in their vehicles. So we need to help the public understand what's there and what's coming. That's really important. The other big recommendation that the white paper included last year is that education has to be widespread, but there has to be some cooperation. No individual organization, whether it's the federal government or industry or state associations like mine, we can't do it individually. We're going to have to work together, and we're going to have to come together with some really clear messaging. The state highway safety offices are critical at this point. They sit in this unique place in state government where they bring together law enforcement, the DMVs, programs and communications, law enforcement, public policy, really a whole host of different areas. And that highway safety office can be a real point of central leadership in the state. Another opportunity around education is the Pave Campaign. If you're not familiar, GHSA joined the Pave Campaign last year. It's a coalition of industry, nonprofits, other institutions looking to get fact-based information out about AVs and dispel some of the confusion and misinformation. It's a really good resource. It's up and coming, but we see promise in organizations like Pave. We've got to figure out whether it's Pave or other entities. There's got to be some central messaging and some central communication so that the public starts to get the information that they need and they start to understand really what we're dealing with. So getting that messaging out is critical. Another way to do that is through federal grant funds. GHSA's members enforce and administer money from NHTSA, from James Agency. We would like to see Congress allow states to use that money to educate the public about the technology that's in the vehicles now and what's coming. So that's a change that we've asked Congress to make in the next reauthorization. So we'll have to wait and see how that works out, but we're very hopeful. On the topic of law enforcement, in states like Arizona, where there have been a lot of widespread testing, it's a success story. Law enforcement is engaged. Waymo has developed some great materials and some great engagement resources for law enforcement. But in some of the other states, law enforcement feel like they're not part of the discussion. They feel like they're being left out. And that's an area for opportunity, because law enforcement are going to play a role in communicating to the public. They're going to play a huge role in investigating crashes. And so that's really important that we reach out to law enforcement. One of GHSA's goals is to see a tool or a national resource developed that all the industry supports and that all the partners support to reach out to law enforcement. And we're working on that, and we're hopeful that something is coming in the near future. On the federal level, today's a really good example of the USDOT bringing a lot of different partners together, bringing out the folks who are really thinking through these issues and getting folks on the same page. So we're appreciative of that. One thing about technology that we don't want to get lost is that driver behavior is going to continue to be a factor. Ann said that, I've said it a couple times. What we've got to do is continue to invest in the technology, but we can't forget about distracted driving, impaired driving, speeding. These are issues that continue to be significant challenges across the country, and so we have to invest in those countermeasures. It's not a mystery. We know what to do. We have to have the resource and the political will to do it, and I think we will have that. I want to close and say that GHSA is absolutely committed to supporting AV technology and continuing this discussion. We want to raise awareness to make progress around these behavioral aspects of AV. We want to help find new opportunities for engagement for our members and for our state partners. And we want to help build partnerships, and we want to help move that forward. I mentioned that the Highway Safety Office really sits at the nexus of traffic safety in states. And so I think we'll continue to encourage our members to be as involved as they can. And finally, I want to say one last thing. You know, we didn't think 4 or 5 months ago that we'd all be sitting in our offices. So unexpected things continue to happen, and I hope that all the great minds out there working on AV will think about things that we're not thinking about. What are the unexpected challenges? What are the unintended consequences? Because this is absolutely critical and has the ability to get us to zero. Thank you to DOT for having me today, and I'm glad to share the stage with King and Ann.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you for your leadership. And I can always say we appreciate the work that we do here at NHTSA with GHSA and all of its members. Thank you. And now I want to turn it over to our next speaker, King G. King, floor is yours.
Thank you, Deputy Administrator Owens, for the opportunity to speak about automated vehicle testing and deployment on behalf of AASHTO. As many of you know, AASHTO is the association that represents all the departments of transportation of the 50 states, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico. We recognize that automated driving systems hold great promise for saving lives and improving our quality of life. And while much work has been done in recent years, much more work remains to be done before ADS or the automated vehicle becomes commercially and safely available. We thank USDOT for its leadership on a number of fronts, including what we're here to highlight today, the AV test platform. But first, allow me to share what AASHTO and the state DOTs have been doing in this AV space. The state DOTs have been actively engaged with automated vehicles from a number of perspectives, as sponsors of AV testing, as partners with other entities testing AVs, as hosts of AV testing, and as regulators of AV testing. From Arizona to Nevada, to Utah to Washington State, from California to Texas to Florida, and from Maryland to Pennsylvania to Ohio to Michigan and Minnesota, and many others, state DOTs all around the country are engaging with OEMs and technology companies to conduct tests, run pilots, and engage the public. As owners of the infrastructure and managers of mobility on the state's highways and streets, state DOTs are exploring the benefits of AVs for safer and more efficient operations of the surface transportation system, for equity and mobility access for underserved communities, and for integration with the public transportation system. These activities need to be done in coordination and collaboration with partners who manufacture the AVs, with companies which operate the AV fleets, and with communities and districts to be served in a sustainable manner. And before any of these benefits can become reality, the technology must be tested, proven, and accepted. Car makers, technology companies, mobility companies, and state and local DOTs have been busy with testing. On the state DOT side, individual department projects, pooled fund research efforts, and the National Cooperative Highway Research Program have invested valuable research funds to help develop specific elements of the self-driving landscape. This includes necessary infrastructure features and improvements to support the safe testing, operation, and deployment of AVs. This also includes exploring any necessary AV policies and socialization to gain support for AVs. At the end of the day, without public acceptance, AVs will not advance. So a number of state DOT projects are aimed at engaging and informing the public on AVs and determining what will enhance acceptance. All of the state DOT-sponsored research is publicly available, but we believe in sharing and cooperative development as the fastest way to advance the technology like ADS across the country. So we look forward to seeing the private sector testing information on the AV test platform. Our departments have been encouraged by the public's enthusiasm for AVs once they've experienced them. We're encouraged by law enforcement and other first responders' willingness to engage, and we're encouraged by the vendors' responsiveness. As we look ahead, some critical success factors have arisen from our experiences. These include a strong focus on safety, coordination, collaboration, or partnering with stakeholders, public engagement, and continuous improvement of systems and technology through testing at different levels. You will hear more details from a few states in this afternoon's panel. As noted previously, AASHTO through our committees and our members have been engaged with the private sector in this space through various forums. At the state level, more than 12.5 states have some kind of interagency task force or committee guiding AV testing and deployment, many involving the private sector as well. At the national level, we have been leading the CAT Coalition, an informal but structured coalition of more than 600 experts from the private sector and the public sector at the federal, state, and local levels. The CAT Coalition is working on policy, technical, operational, and implementation issues for cooperative automated transportation, CAT, which includes AVs, and we appreciate Federal Highway support for this effort. Through these collaborations, we have clarified expectations on one side and increased understanding of what is currently available on the other side. We've been in discussions with SAE International about infrastructure needs of AVs. Most importantly, we've continued our long-standing collaboration with our sister associations, AMVA and GHSA. We value AMVA's AV working groups and the guidelines they have developed for testing AVs. We appreciate GHSA's primers on AVs and their laser-sharp focus on safety. All this engagement and collaboration must continue and expand if we are to see the deployment of AVs sooner than later. Thus, we welcome the Automated Vehicle Transparency and Engagement for Safe Testing Initiative, or AV Test Initiative, to create a single platform where AV testing information from both the public sector and the private sector may be available in one place for all to see. It's a needed development, and we are very happy to note that 9 of our member states are initial participants in the ramping up of this AV test platform. As noted earlier, public acceptance of ADS is critical for the successful deployment of AVs, and the transparency potentially offered by AV tests will serve to build public confidence in the technology and in how we use them to serve transportation needs. The information that would be available on the AV test platform may also open opportunities for more collaboration and partnering to accelerate the refinement of the ADS technology. Roadway transportation has always depended on the various components working well together: the vehicle, the driver, and the infrastructure. Now, more than ever, with ADS potentially taking over the tasks of the driver, there's a great opportunity to integrate the 3 components like never before for the safest and most efficient surface transportation possible. Before that can happen, much more development, testing, and integration of automated vehicle technologies in as safe and open a manner as possible must happen. AV test is a big step in facilitating this. The joining of efforts by NHTSA, Federal Transit Administration, Federal Highway Administration, FMCSA on automated vehicles signals that USDOT sees that synergy, and we look forward to much, much more ahead. Thank you to everyone at USDOT, and thank you for your attention.
King, thank you very much. We appreciate, here at DOT, we always appreciate the opportunity to work with you and all of AASHTO and all of your members. Now I want to express I truly appreciate all of our panelists sharing their expertise and unique insights with us. What an amazing opportunity to hear from 3 associations with such nationwide significance. And it's really a sign of the kind of collaboration and partnership we can have moving forward on these really important issues. So that brings us to the conclusion of our event today. I hope you found today's presentations enlightening, and I know I have. Acting Administrator Williams, thank you as well for your support of the AV Test Initiative. We are truly one DOT, united to fulfill our shared safety mission. For the members of the media in attendance, please email nhtsamedia@dot.gov if you have any questions about the AV Test Initiative. Once again, that's nhtsamedia@dot.gov. We invite you to visit the AV Test Initiative website and sign up for updates on this important project. That website is available at www.nhtsa.gov/AVTest. Again, I want to thank you all for taking the time to join us today. We are excited about the AV Test Initiative, and I hope you are as well. Please, first and foremost, please stay safe, please stay healthy, and hopefully we'll all be able to see one another soon. Have a good rest of your day, and thank you very much.